Welcome to the Revere Society for Cultural and Historic Preservation and our wonderful museum. This is our 25th year as a historic society and probably around our 10th year as a museum. We're kind of a quirky little house museum and we love it, and we really have Bob Haas and his family to thank for it, and we're so grateful because not only did he support us from the very beginning, but he continued his support in and out of office, wherever he was. He continued to show an interest, pop in, just, you know, one of the nicest people I have ever known in the city. And I am so happy to be able to do this for him today and his family. Thank you all for coming. Thank everyone for coming, because it's so important that the people of Revere know that they have a museum and they have a place to go, and we are taking care of the history of the city. We love to display everything. We want your stuff. Drop it off. Call me up. I'll leave you my number. It's not doing you any good in a closet or in the basement or, you know, in a shoebox or whatever. Share it, please. I am willing to photograph anything, copy anything that brings more history to the people of Revere is why we're here. And Mr. Upton knows that very well. It's an ongoing endeavor. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor, and Bob helped make that happen. I'm just so indebted to him, and I really wanted to do this for you. And also, I want to say thank you, everyone, so very much who donated. We are going to have a new roof repair, paint, carpentry, all of those things. I know you drive by, maybe you say, oh, when are they going to fix that? But we're working on it. It's a work in progress, and it's love, all that goes into it. I have to say, it really is. It takes a while, you know, when you have a committee and an e-board and lots of people, and you're looking for money all the time. It's not easy. But just to let you know that we're all volunteers. None of us are paid for what we do. We really seriously do it for the love of the history of the city and the love of its people, like Bob. He really loved the people of the city, and he loved the history. And I would just like to present this to you.
Oh, that's so
Anita.
nice. Oh, that's sweet, Mary.
I'd like to present Mayor Arrigo and bring his greetings.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning, we were actually at the Bagel Bin, remembering Bob, and we had a beautiful memorial sign that was put up outside the Bagel Bin today. And I mentioned how that was a place where Bob cultivated his popularity, where he gained a lot of respect in the community, and where he was his best in that informal setting where he could joke and laugh and also make important decisions. And those decisions are the things like what we see today here in this beautiful building. The fact is, he did when you know he was in office, he made sure that this was a priority for the city, because he loved the history of the city, and he knew that knowing that history and being part of that history would make us so much better in the future. And so, you know, as Mary Jane alluded to, there is some work that we need to do to this building. We talked a little bit about it this afternoon, but this is just a beautiful tribute to Bob. I think if there are two places to pick, and Juanita's shaking her head, but if there are two places to pick, the Bagel Bin and the Historical Society are the two places where Bob's heart and where his love for the city were, you know, shine through. So I'm just lucky to be here. So, and thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Carol Ty is here. Now, I know she was at the Bagel Bin this morning. There you are. Thank you. And all I know about Carol's relationship with Bob is that she babysat him. So she'll tell you more. Thank you, Carol.
My grandmother delighted in sharing the story of how the grandparents, the Haas grandparents, came to Endicott Avenue in Revere. They came on a motorcycle and Dolly was in a sidecar. So Big Fred, who was a boxer, a big man, and Dolly came, and then they had 9 children that they raised on Endicott Avenue in Revere. So we shared, I think my memory is not quite clear, but I think Bobby was probably about 4 years old when I realized that Bobby was Bobby. And he was running around in the street, of course, and all the kids were playing. That was a different time. Everybody could play in the street. And then the Haas boys went off to war. All 5 of them went off. And then life changed for all of us while we were there. And then, lo and behold, they all came back. And that house at 60 Endicott, which had been so quiet, uncharacteristically quiet for so long, suddenly burst with energy again. The boys were coming in and out. They were getting jobs. They were partying. They were, 5 boys home from the service. It wasn't always, a staid, sedate party or social event, but it was always fun. And everybody was always welcome. I loved going over there. Dolly was great, and the boys all inherited that. And then they passed that on to the next generation. Because when Big Bob married Jean, and then they moved off Endicott Avenue and they went to the project, we still, of course, everybody still kept in touch because everybody was invited to everything. Mm-hmm. So Franny, my dear friend Franny, was generally the babysitter, but I would go with her because Jean, a lovely, lovely woman, a wonderful mother, Bob, a wonderful father. You might remember him as the crossing guard right down by the new Hill School. He would be there in any weather. They were always so welcoming to everyone. And I think Bob developed that social conscience, that ability to be social with just about anyone from the time he was very young. So when I babysit for him, of course his mother always left lots of snacks. We didn't care if we got paid anything, as long as we had snacks, that was okay. And they were fun to babysit for. Sheila is up there. Sheila was around, and later I used her when I was in college as a kind of experiment. And I wasn't lucky enough to have Bob as a student, but I did have Juanita. A peach she was at Revere High School. She was such a wonderful student. And so we had interactions all along, watch people being born. We're godparents to Kim out there, we shared that. So we have lots of things in common with the Haas family. As a matter of fact, I'm very honored when I get invited to the Haas family reunions and always have a wonderful time and appreciate that. I see you out there. So, anyway, when Bob first started out, I think Bob has like 2 major legacies. I know I count the concerts for senior citizens. I count all the small things that those of us who are here now will never know, all the things that he did for people. And maybe even Juanita doesn't know them all. But I bet because Juanita, though, was the strength that helped Bob do what he did. Because I'll tell you, unless you have somebody at home like that who is staying with you, you cannot possibly do all of that. You need it. And she was there all the time, being her sedate, being her classy self. So I think this museum is a major part of his legacy. And the other part, I think it is the 5-building school development. That, now, Bob and I were not always on the same side politically. Most of the time we were. But, you know, that happens, that sometimes you're not. And we had put in the late 1990s, the plan for 5 new schools with the state, and we would get 90% reimbursement. We never, of course, we couldn't foresee then that the state would have a crisis and that would all be put by the wayside for a short period of time. But we had that. And in that previous election, just then, Bob had not won the election. And so in December, on a very cold day, I walked up to the office and I said, you know, we can do this. We have to put in the plan now to the State Department because we won't get what we hope we'll get unless we sign this right now. We can get on the list. And we talked. And we talked about legacy, about, you know, how we all want to be remembered. And we all hope that we'll be remembered for something that's so positive. And in spite of the fact that we had not been on the same side in that election, we had shared 5 generations of family experiences. Most of them very happy, some of them quite sad. But that's what happens in families. So he decided that he would sign it. He didn't have to. He could have put it off. He was very worried about seniors being able to pay the additional taxes. But we both said our connection, what our legacy, the legacy of everybody in Revere will be, is a good school system. And that's important to all of us. And so he signed it. Now, I did not know then, and I don't know if he knew or not, that he would be then on the city council to help us not only get through the initial stages, but get all the way through so that we now have the West Revere complex. We have the 2 schools up there, the Wayland and the Susan B. Anthony. We have the Paul Revere. We have the Hill School. We have the Rumney Marsh down here. And I think all of that is such an important part of Bob's legacy. And I am happy to have been able to share his journey with him for a good portion of the way. So Bob, thanks for everything.
It looks just like him.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's great.
It's beautiful.
Ready? 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you so very much for all your support. We really can't do this without you. And to go with that, we have membership forms. And
And we have tickets for Shirley Valentine on
we
June 3rd.
have, yes, we have tickets. We have a gift shop. We're all, you know,
Feel free.
we're nonprofit and we're all volunteer. That's all I have to say. Anybody who works in a nonprofit knows how cuckoo it can be.
Right.
It's something different every day, but we love it.